from your books, your village has been quite supportive too of
Yes.
said shenanigans. Because I was like, if you're gonna love me, you gotta love my shenanigans too. Because I like to throw my hat over the fence and just say, you know what? Yeah, that's reckless and stupid. I'm still doing it. You can't stop me.
Exactly. Well, I was actually just talking to my mom about that the other day. She's a very close part of my village at, newborn days. And she's like, you did go on a lot of dates to figure out what you didn't want in a partner. I was like, I knew so clearly on what I didn't want, but didn't really know what I wanted at the end of the day. Like, yes, it's one and the same, but two very different things. And you're like, I don't want XYZ. So what do you want out of XYZ, right? So, finding that the opposite of it was I wrote a list. I like lists, but it was quite entertaining. Like, you go through shenanigans, and I think people go through shenanigans willingly, which is awesome. You got to grow. But figuring out again what you want out of what you don't want is a sit down and reflection. Like, it's a purposeful time and period where you actually have to put effort and thought into it. And that took me years to realize. Like, I'm like, I'm living life. Like, I missed a whole bunch. I had to take care of somebody who was very sick, and I lost a lot of me in that. And that's okay. But I figured, let's just go on with life and live the life and live through shenanigans, and I'll figure out what I wanted. But you can just keep living life and go through shenanigans, but actually not figure out what you want out of it unless you purposefully sit down and figure it out. And again, that's where that list came from for me. But yeah, there was a lot of life lessons learned through my shenanigans.
Well, that's the only way to learn them, right?
100%.
Yeah, I'm a big list person too. I'm a Capricorn, so I'm all about lists and spreadsheets and things like that. I'm like, oh, organize? Yes, please.
Yes.
But yeah, I have I have different lists, and I'm curious if you have the same. I have a do not tolerate list, which is like if someone's passive aggressive and I catch
Mm-hmm.
them, like that's an automatic no. And certain things that I said, these were the red flags in relationships. I can't, and narcissistic traits. Like when I see traits of
Yep.
a malignant narcissist, that's when I'm like, okay, red flag.
Bye.
But yeah, exactly. So and then I have other lists as well, like what I look for in someone I hire, what I look for in someone I have a podcast guest with. So I'm curious, like, what are some other lists that you've made recently?
Oh, recently. Okay, well, I'll go back to the last list because it was the list that I actually went and to the most in depth. Before I met my partner, actually like maybe about a year, 6 months before I met my partner, I came up with a list of attributes and characteristics that he has to have, but I also have to maintain. Because how can I expect somebody to have these attributes and characteristics if I'm not going to have these attributes and characteristics? And of course, opposites attract in this and that, but they weren't attributes and characteristics that were material. It was somebody who is able to hold, like, for example, one of the items that I always remember is they have to be able to hold themselves in a group environment. One, I have a very big, loud family. Two, I'm an author, so I know people from around the world, and the city that I live in is quite small. So if I go somewhere, there's almost guaranteed that I'm going to run into somebody that I know. And I want somebody that will be independent enough to hold their own. I don't want to carry them through a scenario. I don't want to carry them through a gathering or a dinner or a party or, heaven forbid, an event for myself. And in turn, I am independent enough for them to put me into a family gathering or put me into an event, and I will be I'm like, hey, you do you, I'm going to do me. We're together, but at the same time, we're okay. I'm still able to manage by myself. Like, you can go off and do what you need to do, and I'll make a new friend somewhere. And I made it 40 items, and somebody was like, yo, you are being picky. And I said, absolutely not am I being picky. I figured out what I know and what I like about certain things. Another one is financially independent. I don't need your bank account to be 6 figures or 4 figures or 3 figures. I don't care what your bank account is. I don't want you to be silly with your money or irresponsible with your money. I want you to have financial goals. I want you to actually be able to like work towards them. And you know, like, again, I don't care what your bank account is. I just want you to know how to manage your money, whatever that money looks like. And you know, I dated a whole bunch, and I remember, you know, looking at the list and then going through, okay, this person checks off 30 out of 40 items. Now I look at the 10 that they don't check off. Is it because we haven't gotten there because we've only been dating for a short period of time? Or is it because they're never going to get checked off?
Yeah.
And if they were never going to get checked off, then it was easy for me. Wasn't easy the first couple times, but it turned to be easy to go, you know, it's not you, it's me. And we're not going down the same path. So I would like to end this now before anybody's feelings get hurt. And of course, again, that took practice and time to say it eloquently and say it respectfully without sounding like, well, you don't meet all the requirements on my list, so adios, mofo. Like, I don't want, I had no want to say that, because you go into something with somebody with respect. You should be leaving with respect, no matter the time, no matter the circumstances. And again, it took me time to get to a point and a place where it was done respectfully and eloquently. And, you know, I'm happy to say that the last few people that I did date before meeting my partner, we're still completely amicable and friendly with one another and wish nothing but the best, because we both realized, I said, this is something that you want and I don't, or vice versa, or something that I require in a partner, and that's just not who you are. And I'm not about to get mad and blame you for not being something that I want, because you're allowed to be you, 150% you. I'm not here to change you, carry you, do anything. I just want you to be you and you to fit within those specs. And then my partner came along and I was like, I'm going to show you my list. He goes, no. I'm like, what? I was so taken aback by it, because I'm like, I was kind of pissed. I'm like, why don't you want to see my list? Like, my list is important. Like, I put effort into this
Yeah,
list. And
it's
he goes,
the list.
it is, it's the list. And he goes, no, because then I don't know what this list is all about. It's important to you. That's cool. Keep it yours. But he's like, if I see something on that list, I may or may not unconsciously or subconsciously or consciously make myself be something on that list when I'm not. And I want to just be authentically me. You're going to like me or you're not going to like me. And I was like, whoa, brownie points, surprisingly. And you know, we kind of, then COVID, you know, COVID kind of got really crazy, and I forgot to review my list. I reviewed it every day, by the way. It's like reviewing your goals every day. You review your goal. That was a goal. So I reviewed it every day. COVID got crazy. There was lockdowns, so like a whole bunch of stuff. I forgot to review the list for a few weeks, and we kept dating. And then after a while, I was like, oh man, I forgot my list. I forgot to read it. Whew. So I went back and I'm like, hot diggity dang, this guy checks off all boxes. I'm like, how does this happen? So I remember going to him after work one day. I was like, bro, you hit all the boxes. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, do you want to see the list now? He's like, no, I do not. I'm like, what the heck? And he goes, keep reviewing it. Like, it may just be that it's in right now, here, right now. Like, the first few months you date somebody, they're always trying to sell themselves and show them the best side of you. So he's like, keep it to yourself. I'm going to keep being me. You keep being you. And we'll see if this thing actually is something. And then a little while later we had a baby, so I think it worked out real well.